Here. So is DOGE really the number one most important story in America right now? Because that seems to be what is dominating the news over the past 3 weeks, DOGE. Now, one possible exception would be Donald Trump seeming to end the war in Ukraine, but whether there's a war or not in Ukraine, it doesn't affect the lives of Americans, while DOGE is affecting the lives of Americans in that hundreds of thousands of people are going to be unemployed, and it appears like DOGE is on course to do a reordering of American government that we have never, ever seen before. And remember how the conventional wisdom prior to Trump taking office was that DOGE wouldn't amount to anything. That they'd submit some plans, they'd set up a commission, at most it'd be all sound and fury signifying nothing. Well, you can say many things about DOGE right now, but you cannot say that it signifies nothing. That is a hugely important story. Right? If it's not number one news story in America right now, it's number two. Christopher Caldwell read an essay in the Free Press that the most important thing that Donald Trump has done with this new administration is via executive order outlaw affirmative action. So that may be the most important competitor to DOGE for significance. For the story with the most significance in the United States right now, it would be Trump's executive orders against DEI and against affirmative action. This has the likelihood of increasing social trust and social cohesion and increasing competency and perhaps even reducing the encouragement of needless government intervention into our most personal lives, and perhaps reducing the threat of litigation and government investigation and surveillance. So, if you had to push me, I usually feel pretty safe siding with Christopher Caldwell. And so, ending affirmative action, ending diversity, equity, inclusion via Trump's executive orders, hasn't fully flowed through the United States of America right now. It appears that the elite universities are substantially ignoring the Supreme Court. It appears that America's elite universities are ignoring the Supreme Court ruling, which is hilarious. So, as far as real-world impact, you can make a good case that Trump's executive orders on affirmative action, right, and DEI. So more and more companies are ending their diversity, equity, inclusion programs. Government agencies are ending their DEI programs. And what's amazing is how little pushback this was received. So remember, this was the most sacred value. This was the most important thing in the world, guys. We have to have more diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, we have to have more Black women in power, Black lesbian women preferably in power. This is the most important thing. This is how we can best honor the life and the sacrifice of St. George Floyd. George Floyd would want us to have more diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This was the most important topic in America in the summer of 2020. And thank God, in retrospect, thank God for that tumultuous summer of 2020, because the blowback against affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion, against Black Lives Matter, against the race hustling of the Democratic Party is so glorious and beautiful. And so sometimes people have to get pushed to a point where they just snap. And Americans got pushed to the point where they just snapped, and they elected a barbarian as our current president, and it's glorious. But Remember, the conventional wisdom prior to Trump taking office this time was that DOGE would not amount to anything. Remember, the conventional wisdom when Elon Musk bought Twitter but hadn't yet taken over Twitter was that it wouldn't amount to anything. So Richard Spencer said, I don't think Twitter will change when Elon Musk takes it over. So, open question, do you get rich from underestimating Elon Musk? Is that a great path for wealth, underestimating Elon Musk? Because while a flawed human being who often has many of the characteristics of the con man, just like Donald Trump, but he sometimes delivers, and he has an impressive, though flawed, track record, and it appears that underestimating Elon Musk and his ability to do some of the things that he says he wants to do, such as auditing the federal government and creating a Department of Government Efficiency, underestimating his influence and effect seems like a recipe for poverty and for foolishness. So Elon Musk's DOGE has outperformed expectations by 1,000 times. And it's fascinating that Democrats want to concentrate their fire on Elon Musk, not on Donald Trump. And they're not terribly interested in defending DEI initiatives. Very few powerful people and institutions right now are interested in defending DEI. And those few who do, like Costco, I think they've still got a big DEI program. I kind of respect them now because they're going against what's popular. So you can no longer say, oh, they were just bending to what's popular, right? They're just doing what they think is right, and they're going against the flow, and they don't have much institutional or popular support. So I have a strange new respect for proponents of DEI in the sense that they are willing to step up at this time without support from most of our institutions and without support from the Democratic Party, right? There are some people taking lonely stands in support of DEI, and it's amusing how little the left has tried to fight back on DEI. Instead, they're fighting back on Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is coming across as a total bumbler. He is consistently getting really big things wrong, confusing an $8 million cut with an $8 billion cut, getting all sorts of things wrong about Social Security fraud and waste. The recklessness of his pronouncements and his behavior on platform X should not come as a surprise, right? He's got a long track record of reckless and factually dubious assertions on X. And he is constantly humiliating himself in his proclamations about DOGE and cutting fraud on X. But he's also doing work of substance. That is the dominant news story. It is the prime focus of pushback from our institutions, from the Democratic Party, from the news media. The news media is absolutely transfixed by this DOGE story. So let's go to the chat. Where am I? I'm just outside Beverly Hills. I like Modi. Do you see the monologue by the New York Times editor who's whining about congressional powers? No, send me a link. I live near a VA hospital. There are no parking spaces near my place now that work from home has been cancelled. If you were arrested for, would you prefer a DI lawyer? God forbid, God forbid. So it's fascinating how the media and the Democrats think that the path to victory here is to troll Trump, that Elon Musk is more important than him. And on the Commentary Magazine podcast today, I think it was Matthew Continetti noticed that when Sean Hannity would keep asking Elon Musk questions during the joint Trump-Musk interview with Sean Hannity, that there was momentarily a look of unhappiness that would flash across Trump's face. And so everyone's like digging in. Everyone, meaning the pundit class, the expert class, the professional political class, is digging in to look for signs of a blowout between Trump and Musk. And so far, right, Trump and Musk seem to be quite enjoying themselves. And this is not an ordinary friendship. So ordinary friendships bust up fairly easily. Ordinary friendships require quite a lot of maintenance. Right? They're not like family, and they're not like extended family, where you don't have to do any maintenance and you can pick right back up 10 years later. Right? Friendships require maintenance, and forming any kind of connection, right, immediately creates the inevitability of a sense of betrayal. But when you take someone who was once an enemy and you turn them into a friend, that's an incredibly powerful bond. It's not like an ordinary friendship where you start out and you have things in common and you enjoy each other's company and you form a bond. Okay, that can blow up really easily. But if you take someone who was once an enemy, and Trump and Musk used to ridicule each other, right? So I don't know how an intense enemy they were, but they certainly piled on the ridicule and disparaged each other. So when you overcome that, in my experience, that is an incredibly strong bond, because you each congratulate yourselves on how broad-minded and big-hearted you are, that you've overcome your prejudice about someone you thought was an enemy, or you overcome the horrible things that they said about you, that you overcame expectations that you'd never be able to be friends with such a person, right? You overcome enemy status and turn that into friend status, right? Just my experience, that is rock solid. Now, friendships are always going to wax and wane, and I believe in turning up and down the dials of friendship, right? So I will turn up the dials on more or less time with friends, on the intensity of the interactions, on the proximity of the interactions. Are they in person, over the phone? The time, the frequency, proximity, intensity, all right? Those are the four dials to dial relationships up and down in your life. I'm rarely a believer in just cutting people out. Just dial them down or dial them up. And so Elon Musk and Trump, they'll go through ups and downs in the intensity, frequency, duration, and proximity of their relationship. But I can't recall ever having an enemy who became my friend and then they reverted to enemy status again. Right? It is about as solid a basis for friendship as you can find. Right? Correct me. Tell me about your experience. Think about those people who were once your enemies and then you made them a friend. Don't you feel good about yourself that you're able to take an enemy and make them into a friend? Right? You each congratulate yourselves. It's like, oh, awesome, man. I am awesome. I turned an enemy into a friend. So you both have extra motivation to maintain the friendship, or at least not relapse back into enemy status. Because if you go from enemy to friend to enemy, people are going to mock you. People are going to say you're not stable. And so, contrary to the conventional wisdom, I think it's entirely possible that Donald Trump and Elon Musk will stay allies. Because think of the incentives operating. They share all sorts of people who loathe them. The only new businesses in San Francisco are tea shops. Are these also prevalent in LA? I don't know. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and my awareness of new tea shops is not as strong as it should be. I love Mark Halperin's sense of humor, and so I know people close to me don't think he has a sense of humor, but it's quite understated. So he has an English/Australian understated WASP, understated humor sensibility. And so this morning he was talking about Democratic strategists are rethinking their party's reflexive loathing and hatred of Elon Musk. And so on the morning meeting today, he said, And then last night, a leading Democratic strategist went on the Jesse Waters show, and then he played a clip of Dan Turrentine there making yet another visit to the Jesse Waters show, because Dan Turrentine is many a Republican's favorite Democrat, because he expresses genuine empathy and respect for Republicans and for Trump and the MAGA movement, without compromising his own democratic ideals. But he is a shining example of anyone who wants to speak on politics or hot-button issues, with his ability to smile, to be pleasant, to not interrupt, to maintain a good humor when Sean Spicer and Mark Halperin are continually interrupting him. But I was just cracking up when Halperin said, and then last night on the Jesse Waters show, a leading Democratic Party strategist said, and then cuts to a clip of Dan Turrentine talking to Jesse. And another thing I love about Halperin's show is how he mocks network news talk, such as, and we have team coverage tonight, and you are looking live. and then the typical way that a reporter in the field responds to an anchor. So an anchor is given usually a 1 or 2 sentence introduction before throwing to the reporter live in the field. And the anchor says something, and then the reporter responds, "That's exactly right, Dan Rather." So when you overuse these tropes, right, when you overuse phrases and responses, right, they become drained of meaning and they become laughable, and they just stop working. That's the difficulty if you have ritualized prayer, because you're saying the same things. And so either you need to find a new approach to the prayer, or you need to find new meaning for the prayer. So one way that I have added new emotion, new meaning, new purpose to my prayer and to my religious life is to at times replace the word God with reality, and to use the new experience of the 12-step program as a new approach to God that makes God and spirituality and the transcendent like real for me. It's like God with clothes, like God in human flesh. That's like a good 12-step program. And so finding new meaning for trite phrases creates strength and energy. So I'm not expecting a major Trump-Musk blowout anytime soon. Do you think the two-way platform has legs? Yes, I do. Frenemies. When you're down, ain't your friend every night we smash a Mercedes-Benz, New Radicals. I find myself losing interest in politics now that I've become inured to the winning feeling. Bro, for a MAGA head like yourself to lose interest in politics at this time, it's like losing interest in life. And you realize that we have an epic hockey game coming up Thursday night, right, for the final of the Four Nations contest. The United States will face off against Canada again. There should be some fantastic fights. And Dennis Prager talked about how he would refuse to stand during hockey fights because that was his way of protesting people getting excited about fights. But that's such an anti-human thing, right? The most naturally human emotion is to get excited about a fight. And with all of Trump's talk about taking over Canada, I think it's fantastic for Canadian identity, right? They get to define themselves against America. The fastest way to intense in-group identity, fastest way to massively increase nationalism is to increase reasons for hating your neighbor, right? Hating your neighbor is the basis of nationalism and of politics, right? The friend-enemy distinction. And so Trump's talk about taking over Canada is just massively increasing the intensity of Canadian identity. Like, so Canadians are now booing the American national anthem, and it's good. Like, it's good for Canadians because they get to feel more intensely about their Canadian in-group identity, and it's good for Americans because they get to feel more intensely about their American identity, and they get to have more negative feelings about Canada. So if you're an American and you have more negative feelings, you just simply increase the intensity of your negative feelings towards Canada or Mexico, you will increase your in-group American identity. Right? You increase your sense of victimization, you will increase your in-group identity. Right? You increase your loathing for your neighbors to the north or to the south, you will increase your national identity. And so there should be epic fights tomorrow night as the US goes up against Canada. The hockey match should have a level of intensity that we have never seen before in a Canadian versus American hockey match, which should be exciting to watch. Right? This is a glorious time to be alive. Right? Your in-group identity should be pulsing. It should be intensifying. Right? You should feel it build from your toes up through your legs. Right? You should be getting a tingle up your leg right now at the prospect of this epic US versus Canada grand final match Thursday night. What is the Prager report? Well, Prager is paralyzed from the neck down. So I don't think that we should expect a lot from Dennis Prager, but he's, 78, 79 years of age. Julie Hartman has gone to work for the Trump administration in the education department. So let us live and love. Bye-bye.